Hello friends, welcome to KGS IAS English YouTube channel, and today we will discuss chapter number 16 of economic survey. Friends, this chapter number 16 is made up of two parts, part 1 and part 2. Okay, so first we will discuss part 1 and then in the next session we will discuss chapter 16 part 2. So what is part 1? From import substitution to strategic resilience and strategic indispensability. Actually, this chapter talk about the more of self-reliant, the more of atmanirbharta, where it talk about that import substitution is necessary. Apart from that, they are talking about strategic resilience, strategic indispensability, and whatever we had discussed from chapter number 1 to chapter number 15, they had talked about how these chapters from 1 to 15 actually led more to economic growth and development with the objective to make India a strategic resilient country, a strategic indispensable country, and how we can reduce our overall import and increase our export. This is what had been discussed in this chapter 16 part 1. So let's start with introduction. This chapter is not a normal economy chapter. It's not a normal economic chapter. It is a geopolitical economy chapter. It's a strategic state capacity chapter, a manufacturing policy chapter, a long-term national power chapter. This is what this chapter is. It's not a normal economy chapter. It's a geopolitical economic chapter, a strategic state capacity chapter, a manufacturing policy chapter, a long-term national power chapter. So the chapter is saying how can India survive and become powerful in a fragmented, unstable and strategic world economy. On one side, when we are saying that how we can make India survive in this uncertain world, apart from that, how we can become our country more powerful. So this is what the action require. First, strategic resilience. We make our country resilient to all these shocks. That simply means whatever the shocks, whatever the problems arose in the global economic scenarios, we should make our country strong enough to basically to hold these things, to मतलब उनको झेल सके हमारा देश. Second, institutional capability. We need to enhance the capability of an institution, and that can be happen with increase in skills, with increase in production capacity, focusing more on research and development, focusing on diversification of products. Try to identify those countries where India can increase its exports. So this is institutional capability. Then manufacturing depth. Manufacturing depth means we should try to produce those goods more which have a global demand. We should try to create an indispensable kind of a country on which the other countries are dependent, especially for those goods. Then supply chain control. Supply chain control is very important, because if this supply chain is not controlled, it will lead to cost push inflation. So supply chain control is again very important. Then technological capability, enhancement of technology, modern day things we should take care of. Then export, increase our overall export and promote state capacity. So this is what this chapter said that if we want to become a Viksit Bharat, if we want to become a developed nation by 2047, if we want to sustain and if we want to become out of this unstable world, this what we can say, India can survive with these things. Moving ahead, world has changed completely. How the world had changed completely? If we talk about the post 91, if we say, the world is totally different, and what we talk about in last 10 years, if we say, the world is totally different game. So world has changed completely. Earlier globalization worked on certain assumptions. There is open market, there is stable trade rule, free movement of capital, multilateral institutions, predictable geopolitics and cheap global supply chain. So earlier what used to happen, the globalization talk about more of open economies, open market, where one country's products can be go to another country, people can easily move, where countries focusing on increasing the increasing the relationship with the whole world, and they try that whatsoever being possible, our people and our country is open for all of the other nations world, other world nations basically. Then stable trade rules means those trade rules which is beneficial for our importing country as well as for exporting country. We should not make those rules which is creating a problem for both the nation, because if we create those rules which will create a negative impact on exporting nation, then in that case they will do the same. So it's a kind of economy where every prospect is taken care of, with whether it is with respect to import country or exporting country. Free movement of capital can be easily moved in and around between the countries. Then multilateral institution, this is very important. Earlier what used to happen, countries follow that we need to create a group that is multilateral. That means the more the members are there in that group, the more the stronger that group be. Okay. Then predictable geopolitics are very predictable at that time. They are simple as well as there is no such complexities. And then cheap global supply chain, this is very important. Countries try to identify those markets where they will get cheap imported products, and that too of good quality. So in that case they try to maintain the relationship with those nations first, who will give them continuous raw material, or let's say what we can say raw material of or the goods. And the most important thing is that that should not be too much costly. But now what has changed completely? So but now the world is moving towards strategic trade. Now what is this strategic trade? Countries try to maintain the relationship with those countries especially the economy relations, where they will have a strategic advantage. Then export control, they try to control the exports. How? They used to, whatever the goods they are producing, and they if they have a niche on that products, or if they have a dominant control over their product, they will try to control the exports, so that the other country will depend a lot on them, and then they will sell it to the higher prices, and also realize them how important their product is. Then technology wars, obviously there is one technology, then another country develop more advanced technology, then third country develop another advanced technology. So technology war is going on. Supply chain nationalism, then bilateral agreement, this is again very important. As I mentioned earlier, the countries feel that we need to create a strong group. Now they are focusing on creating bilateral agreements. Bilateral agreements means maintaining the relationship with those countries which help them strategically. Rather than creating a group or bulk of countries, we should maintain relationship with few countries that will help us in long run. And also in the present time, cost doesn't matter. What actually matter is, even we can purchase at higher cost, what actually matter, we should not try to reduce the, or we should not try to reduce the control over these strategic nations. Then geopolitical blocks, obviously, as I mentioned, that geopolitical blocks are created. Apart from that, resource weaponization. Resources are used as a weapons. Resources are used as a weapons, that if, okay, we possess this resource, and if anything happened to our country, if any war, if we are engaged in any war, or suppose if any particular country is trying to disturb our peace and harmony, then we should use this resource as a weapon. So this economic and geopolitics are merging again. Now, what is import substitution? As the chapter 16 part 1 says, import substitution. What is the meaning of import substitution? Import substitution means producing domestically what was previously imported. What you previously import, now you are producing it domestically. That is import substitution. So historically, many developed countries use tariff protection, local manufacturing promotion to reduce import dependence. But the survey carefully says not all import substitution is good. Blind protection create inefficiency. And this is the very good thing that is mentioned in economic survey. In context of India also, they had said that we cannot say this thing that we will reduce the import to almost to zero, or we will reduce our import drastically. It's not possible, because there are some goods in which India is totally dependent on other countries. What we can do, we can reduce these imports gradually, and once we have a strategic advantage, or what we can say, once we have the control over those resources, and when we start producing them, then we should try to focus a lot on import substitution. Till date, if we don't have those kind of things, we'll continue to import that goods. And if we say that blind protection, if we are doing import substitution without any R&D, then it will be creating more problems. Okay, so intelligent import substitution is actually required. Now, what is strategic resilience? What is the meaning of strategic resilience? Strategic resilience means the ability of economy to survive shocks and continue to function. If we talk about in recent 1 or 2 years, first of all, then the Russia-Ukraine war go at peak, then Trump tariff, then after that recently that Israel, Iran and US war. All these create a shock in whole global economy. Now, what is strategic resilience? Strategic resilience means that your economy is able to survive the shocks and continue to function. Whatever is going on in your economy is able to, whatever is going on in the world economy, your economy is able to sustain that shock, survive that shock. So these shocks may include geopolitical conflict, technology denial, supply chain disruption, capital flight, commodity shortage, energy shocks. So all the geopolitical conflicts that we had seen, technology denial, if a country is not sharing technology to another country, supply chain disruption, if a country is a major producer of any goods, but they are not creating a good flow of those goods and services, then capital flight, FIs keep on taking their money back to those countries which will give them stable returns, destroying the stock market of other countries. Then commodity shortage of commodity. After that, energy shocks. Energy shocks means non-availability of energy products, especially we had seen in recent times the LPGs or these petrol, diesels and all these things, energy, CNGs and all these things. Then strategic resilience therefore means building buffer, reduce vulnerability, increase domestic capability. We should try to maintain the buffer, we should try to reduce the vulnerability, and also we should try to increase domestic capability so that we can easily survive these shocks. Then what is the meaning of strategic indispensability? Strategic indispensability means the survey says powerful countries are not merely self-sufficient. Instead, the world become dependent on them. That means no one in this whole world, or no country in this whole world, can say we are self-sufficient. Even US, China, all these countries still require the other countries to fulfill their needs. But what this strategic indispensability means, it simply says that the world become dependent on them. How they will become dependent? That other countries require your exports, supply chain depend on your firms, your manufacturing become unavoidable, and your economy become deeply embedded globally. This create influence without coercion. What is the meaning of coercion? That means you are not forcefully doing anything with other country. If suppose any country is dependent, let's say in the recent example, India is depending a lot on energy requirement from these what we can say Middle Eastern countries. Now, because of these war-like scenarios that happened recently, and with the blockage of Strait of Hormuz, what we are facing? We are facing the energy crisis. So that's what strategic indispensability that particular area hold. That if we block this area, the whole world will face the energy crisis, and especially India faces that energy crisis a lot. Although they are not doing intentionally to harm India, but I am saying that India is what we can say, India is struggling a lot because of that. That is the meaning of strategic indispensability. So India should also create those kind of goods, those kind of niche that will create a strategic indispensability, and the whole world should be dependent on India for those products, and those products should be that one which are quite essential to run the whole businesses, like semiconductor. Now, China has a strategic indispensability in that semiconductor. Only few countries have the capability to manufacture that semiconductor because it is very costly. The making is very costly. So that's the strategic indispensability means. Now, the Chanakya Sutra, the foundation of well-being is, now what has Chanakya said and how it is implemented in the present times. The foundation of well-being is dharma, the foundation of dharma is economic strength, and the foundation of economic strength is the state. The foundation of well-being, whatever the people their well-being is depending on dharma. The foundation of dharma is economic strength, then only the dharma's foundation then, and the foundation of economic strength is the state. So the survey is essentially arguing state capacity is the foundation of national power. So the capacity of state, country's capability is the foundation of national power. It's not just market, not just private enterprise, not just capital flow. The important is how capable or how effective the state is. That is what Chanakya also said. Now, India's growth performance, India's potential growth may have shifted closer to 7%. Potential growth means sustainable long-term growth capacity of the economy. That means this is the potential of your economy and you are able to survive and sustain with this capability. So India may have structurally strengthened its economic growth. Now, if we talk about the individual things like banking system, first, the banking system is now in good health because their NPAs had reduced. This is significant because India previously suffered major NPA crisis and banking stress constrained lending. Now credit intermediation improved, banks become more stable and financial stress reduced. Thanks to bad bank, NARCL, IDRCL, thanks to insolvency bankruptcy code. And apart from that, banks are also knew this fact that NPS keep on increasing, so they start maintaining more of provisioning. So their net NPS is actually less than because of this provisioning part. So banking system is now in good health because their NPS has reduced a lot. Their balance sheets become more cleaner. That's why the banking sector is performing well. Now, private investment is good, but not enough. The survey said that private sector is investing, but it can do more. That means their capacity of investment is very high, but they are still not able to touch that level. So capital formation remain above 30% of GDP. Why? Because investment create future productive capacity. The more the investment, the more the capital formation, and the more the capital formation, the more the GDP will rise. So infrastructure will improve because of private investment, industrial expansion occur. So India still require large private sector investment for manufacturing transformation. After that, external stability, a major achievement. The chapter highlights several strengths: comfortable current account deficit, we have large forex reserve, strong remittances. The survey emphasized that India preserved external stability despite shocks. This is presented as major macroeconomic achievement. We have a import cover of around 11 months. Then we have large forex reserve, strong remittances. This is what we can say we have a strong external stability. Agriculture and rural India. The surveys next discuss agriculture. Positive factor because of good monsoon last year. We have bumper production, strong expected rabi crop, positive rural sentiment. But further, rural wages also improved in real term, which increases their disposable income. And as a result of that, rural consumption also increased. And the gap between the urban standards and rural standards has narrowed down. That is a good sign. So this indicates rural demand remains supportive for the overall growth. Urban consumption. The chapter contrasts rural optimism with more cautious urban consumption. On one side, when we are saying that because of good monsoon, the income of the rural people enhances, their disposable income increases, that increases their overall consumption. But talking about the urban consumption, what they are saying that they are saying that we need to be cautious. The survey notes that state level fiscal transfer may support urban spending. The state level fiscal transfers will support the urban spending. Evidence, the results are mixed. This balanced approach is important. That means it's not hugely successful urban consumption when we compare it with the rural consumption. Infrastructure. The chapter praises continuous investment of government in infrastructure, which include public capital expenditure, state incentives through 50-year interest-free loan. That means central government is providing 50-year interest-free loans to the state with a condition that they should incur that expenditure in capital expenditure form. The survey view infrastructure spending as long-term capability creation. That means infrastructure spending should create a long-term capability. Now, labor code, obviously those 4 labor codes that are very important, that actually create reduces lots of complexities. Earlier what used to happen, there are so many definitions, so many points that are mentioned in one law that is not mentioned in other law, so it will create a lot of confusion. So those 4 labor laws actually led to more improved labor flexibility, simplify labor regulation, and improve treatment of workers also. So labor market flexibility support manufacturing competitiveness. Then quality control order, India is becoming very strict on these QCOs, quality control order, because India understands this fact that if we want to increase our exports, if we want that our domestic people also should have the good quality products, we should be strict to that. And not only with the Indian products or exported products, India is also strict to the imported products regarding to QCOs. So many QCOs were suspended because they become counterproductive. The survey is subtle and says that it is extremely important to maintain the good qualities because it led to increase the standards, it protect the consumers, and it led to better quality. Then tax reforms and household purchasing power. Minimum tax threshold was raised to 12 lakh. A survey says a 2-income households, suppose a husband wife earning around 26.7 lakh annually, may effectively pay no tax. This increased disposable income and consumption capacity. That means the less the tax they pay, the more the disposable income they have, because the government had increased the limit. GST reform, it reduces the slab to 2. Earlier we have 4 slabs, 5, 12, 18, 28. Now we have only 2 slabs, that is 5% and 18%. But there are special rates for those products which are basically considered as sin products, or that is very extremely those products which are not generally being used for normal consumption. Okay, so reduced slab to 2, shifted many goods to lower slab. As a result, that if the many products fall into the lower slab, that is 5%, cost push inflation will reduce. So survey says that it reduces the cost push inflation, increase the purchasing power, it simplify the indirect taxes, and it led to structural consumption support also. Then self-sufficiency, we are focusing a lot on self-sufficiency because these critical minerals, semiconductors, and shipbuilding, we had incur a lot of cost for them. इंडिया का बहुत सारा जो फॉरेक्स रिजर्व जाता है वो इन चीजों में जाता है. सो वी आर नाउ फोकसिंग ऑन क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, सेमीकंडक्टर, शिप बिल्डिंग. So we should not excessively need to rely on external system, because again, if any problem arose, like any war like situation happen, or any disaster happen, or any pandemic kind of situation happen, then again we should depend, we are depending a lot on other countries, it will damage our own economic systems. So this directly connects with strategic resilience. Now, this chapter also talk about US tariff on India. Reciprocal and penal tariff imposed by US in 2025 says that even friendly global power increasingly use trade strategically. India shared a good relation with America. Many Indian people are working there. Then America is only country which is having a trade surplus. India is having a trade surplus with America in top 10 trading partners. America is the only country out of which we have a trade surplus out of 10 nations. So now America is also imposing the reciprocal tariffs on India. So India respond through new trade negotiations. After that US tariff, reciprocal tariffs, India actually trying to find the new countries, new agreements, trying to do more of FTAs, and also trying to find the new alternative countries. Then export support package, diversification into new market, creating their own niche also. So strategic export policy we are focusing, because global uncertainty is not temporary, it is deeply structural. Moving ahead, China's WTO entry in 2001. They are saying that, see, there is a one country which is, what we can say, not that limelighted what it is today, But when China entered in 2001, and from 2001 to the next 20 years, what they had played is exceptionally phenomenal. So China rapidly became manufacturing superpower, export giant, and industrial ecosystem leader. This disrupted when China became the global leader in different manufacturing sector. It led to disruption in Western manufacturing. It led to disruption in global market and investment pattern. That simply says that if one country is becoming strategic resilient and their products become indispensable, they will try to reduce the impact of Western powers also. Then Alberto Gallo's quantitative easing trap. Now, what is quantitative easing infinity trap? Quantitative easing means when suppose in context of India, if I'll say when RBI reduces the interest rate, that is actually called as quantitative easing, or what we can say monetary to increase the money supply in the economy. Quantitative easing is followed. So economies become dependent on permanent monetary easing. Now, if you keep on easing this quantitative easing, it led to more money flow. It will lead to people have more income with them. Then they try to purchase the thing. So asset price rise, productive investment weaken. Even if that asset is of 5 CR, suppose the price increase to 7 8 CR, that is creating an asset bubble also. So the prices keep on increasing because the people's purchasing power increases. As a result, the productive investment weaken, real returns fall, inequality increases, populism grow, and as a result of that, monetary stimulus again become necessary. So it's become a kind of trap where once you reduces the interest rate, again there is a need to reduce the interest rate because the gap between the rich and the middle income is actually increasing a lot. So asset bubble, wealth inequality, stagnant demand, lower productivity, trade war, financial repression, and then more quantitative easing. Then AI boom. AI is creating an entirely new geopolitical competition for energy, chips, compute, data center, rare minerals, copper, electricity infrastructure. Earlier technological revolution depend on human labor, industrial machine, manufacturing capacity, but the modern AI system is depending a lot on physical infrastructure at enormous scale. Other way, when we saying that earlier time human labor, industrial machine, manufacturing capacity play an important role, but in today's time physical infrastructure play a crucial role, which says hyperscale data center, GPU cluster, cooling system, high voltage transmission, and semiconductor fabrication chain. We already had discussed this in AI chapter. Now, data center, this is the what we can say the one who control the data center in future will control the major part of the world economic potential also. So data center, the new strategic infrastructure. The survey described data center as the factories of the AI age. Earlier, what used to happen? How these Western countries become the global superpower because they try to control these factories and they are doing the industrial revolution. But now the factories of the AI age is that these data center. So factories drove industrial revolution, oil refineries drove energy system, ports drove global trade. Now data center will drive the digital power. So these data center consume massive electricity, huge water, advanced cooling system, and stable grid infrastructure. So those who are phenomenal rich, super rich, they only can afford these creation of data centers. But that also have some negatives, that they require massive electricity, they require huge water, advanced cooling system, and stable grid infrastructure. Now the copper crisis. Copper demand is exploding because of data center, new transmission system, creation of more EVs, renewable energy, semiconductor infra. So why copper is essential? Because electricity transmission depend a lot on copper, data infrastructure require conducive material, and AI need electrical infrastructure demand. So chapter says copper may become one of the most defining strategic commodity of the coming decades. So India need to try to pull out these copper reserves more because this is the future. Then why resource nationalism is returning? This is very important thing. Resource nationalism means earlier when we are saying this thing, we try to make this thing possible in the whole world, that let's other countries also come to our nation, let's supply them also the material. World is a global home. But now these things have completely changed. Now the country who possess the strategic resources, they try to control that. They will limit the supply of them so that the other country should be remain dependent on them. So as strategic technology expand, countries increasingly seek control over mineral, energy system, semiconductor supply chain, manufacturing ecosystem, which create resource nationalism. Countries restrict the export, protect the strategic sector, and control technology transfer. The world is moving away from unrestricted globalization towards strategic economic blocks. यही लाइन आ सकती है मेंस में आपके पास. मेंस में सीधी सीधी लाइन आप पूछ सकते हैं आपसे. द वर्ल्ड इज मूविंग अवे फ्रॉम अनरेस्ट्रिक्टेड ग्लोबलाइजेशन टुवर्ड्स स्ट्रेटेजिक इकोनॉमिक ब्लॉक्स. Export control and technology denial. Export control through advanced chip restriction, semiconductor, AI processor. Survey says technology itself is becoming a weapon because technological dependence may constrain future policy autonomy. So strategic capability now require technology depth. Apart from that, capital flow. Capital flow is also kind of a vulnerable because rapid capital flow, अगर बहुत ज्यादा कैपिटल का इनफ्लो होगा तो इट विल लेड टू इंक्रीज द एसेट प्राइस, एसेट बबल विल बी क्रिएटेड, it increase the leverage and also create more of speculative booms in the economy. But if there is sudden outflow, suppose FPI is taking their money back to the other countries, then it will lead to the crash of stock market, currency instability, financial stress, NPAs increases, balance sheet losses increases. So survey says domestic productive capability matter more than volatile financial flows, and that's very necessary. If a country is depending a lot on foreign financial inflows, they have to bear a huge cost when they take their money back. We had seen in the stock market crashes also in recent times. So we should try to focus more on domestic flows rather than depending on huge financial inflows from outside. Then Swadeshi reinterpreted. Modern Swadeshi does not mean isolation, autarky, and blanket protection. Instead, it said domestic capability, reducing the dependence on other countries. Strategic diversification, try to find the new nations where you can do the trade. Productive depth, try to increase the manufacturing. R&D need to be better. Resilience against vulnerability. So survey repeatedly want poor design protectionism create insufficiency, and strategic capability must remain globally competitive. Then this is very important. Tier 1, Tier 2 and Tier 3 indigenization framework. How India can promote this indigenization framework? First of all, Tier 1. First, we need to find out critical strategic dependency. That we need to strengthen the domestic capability in defense, semiconductor, energy and telecom. The excessive dependence on other countries create the national security risk. Second tier, competitive manufacturing capability. We can increase the export competitiveness. We should promote the scale, enhance the productivity through better electronics, better machinery and industrial goods. So India must integrate the global value chain while increase domestic value addition. Then tier 3, non-strategic import. Open trade remain acceptable. Survey supports selective rather than universal protectionism. That means you can do selective protectionism, but don't try to follow the universal protectionism. Same what East Asian industrialization lessons. Successful industrialization did not rely on free market. जो भी सक्सेसफुल इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन ईस्ट एशिया में हुआ उसमें स्टेट्स ने क्या किया? Coordinated investment. That means the investment which is needed in a particular sector, even if it is needed more in one sector, give more investment and try to balance out with other investment. Protected strategically. Then enforce export discipline. Try to export those things which is needed, but that too with very smart way. Then build manufacturing ecosystem. Hence protection succeed only when linked with better productivity, good scale and export competitiveness. Apart from that, global value chain. Modern manufacturing operates through global value chain. So production stage are distributed through component assembly, logistic, design and final export. So strategic integration matter more than simplistic self-sufficiency. Then hard currency. Hard currencies are those currencies which are stable, which are what we can say convenient to be used. Dollar is the hard currency which have a huge brand value. So currency strength and external power, dollar, yuan, pound, yen, euro, these all are the hard currency. So countries with strong manufacturing, good export competitiveness and productive capacity have stronger currency, lower vulnerability and greater policy autonomy. So manufacturing strength ultimately support macroeconomic sovereignty. So if we talk about the conclusion of this chapter, global economy is now moving toward geopolitical fragmentation, technology competition and strategic supply chain control. So in this changing world, excessive dependence on foreign system is risky. Passive participation in globalization is dangerous, and financial growth alone is not enough. So India should focus on increasing manufacturing capability, technological self-reliance, export competitiveness, institutional capacity, and strategic resilience. So the ultimate goal is strategic indispensability, where India becomes so economically important that the world depends on India as a critical part of global supply chain and productive system. And that's why we are saying China plus one strategy is important for India. So India need to encash this opportunity as much as possible. Let's discuss few questions. Strategic resilience refers to the ability of economy to withstand external shock such as supply chain disruption and technology denial. True. Strategic indispensability implies that other countries become economically dependent on a national productive capability and supply chain. True. That's explain one also. Strategic indispensability can be achieved solely through high GDP growth without developing manufacturing. No, this is wrong. So only one is correct. And explain the only one of the statement 2 is 2 and 3 are correct, and it explains statement 1. So C is the right answer. Quality control order ensure standards and improve quality. Strategic indispensability reduce all form of international trade dependence. No, this is wrong. Reduce all form of international trade dependence नहीं, कुछ चीजों में. Tier 1 indigenization, build domestic capability in critical strategic sector. That's correct. Semiconductor and all these things. So 1 and 3, only 2 is the correct. Here, all form is actually exaggeration. Consider the following statement regarding AI and global strategic competition. AI expansion significantly increased demand for electricity, semiconductor and critical mineral. Data center are described in the chapter Strategic Infrastructure of Digital Age. Survey argues that AI development is completely detached from physical. No, this is wrong. It depends a lot on physical infrastructure. बहुत ज़्यादा dependent है. Electricity, water, cooling power. So this is wrong. 1 and 2 are the correct statement. Consider the following statement regarding modern Swadeshi. Modern Swadeshi implies complete economic isolation. No. It is promoting your own goods, but not complete isolation. The chapter supports selective strategic capability creation rather than blanket protectionism. This is true. Protection without export competitiveness and productivity discipline may reduce efficiency. This is true. So protection without export competitiveness and productivity discipline may reduce efficiency. So 2 and 3 are correct. A is the correct statement. So friends, this is in chapter number 16 part 1. Now we left only with one chapter, that is 16 part 2. I hope you get a good insight from this particular chapter. And if you really like this video, mention in the comment and share it with your friends. Thank you and God bless you.